Hey y'all, welcome back for Community Resilience, Mental Health as Social Control. This is a series, sorry I should have done that, but anyway, whatever. I'm reading my master's thesis, and we are balls deep in the middle of chapter 1. We're gonna go through, we're gonna go through Big Pharma and the prison industry in this episode, okay? It's a few pages. Alright. As noted above, so I just got done, we just read about the DSM, the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual, and this is the next part of the chapter, okay? As noted above, the DSM provides medical authority figures with a rubric to first pathologize and then subsequently treat mental illness based on certain behaviors this small group of people find troubling. SAS connects politicians and medical professionals and links their jobs to controlling the masses. He writes, since the advent of psychotropic drugs in the late 1950s, psychiatrists have tried, with considerable success, to transform their profession into a politically correct truth. Politicians and medical professionals, jurists, journalists, lawyers, and the public believe or pretend to believe that mental illness is like any other illness, okay? The stark reality is that the jails and prisons in the United States are filled with individuals who have been found non-compliant with their diagnosis and who are unable or unwilling to produce and reproduce within a capitalist framework. Foucault explains that this expansion as the emergence, or rather the institutional specification, the baptism, as it were, of a new type of supervision, both knowledge and power, over individuals who have resisted disciplinary normalization. So, don't fall in line, fuck you, you're mentally ill, okay? That's what happened to me. I did not want to go into corporate America, so I got locked up instead, okay? I mean, there's a little more to it. Go check out my story times, but essentially that's what happened. According to the National Alliance on Mental Illness, aka NAMI, approximately 20% of state prisons and 21% of local jail prisoners have had a recent history of mental health condition. In the United States, The reality of successive neoliberal agenda and state control is cages as a catch-all solution to social and political problems. Furthermore, when literal cages are not accessible, surveillance and other means of imprisonment serve this purpose, i.e., law enforcement and pharmaceuticals. The relationship of big pharma and prison expansion is most evident in California, where 23 prisons have been built since 1984. Political geographer Ruth Wilson Gilmore confirms this expansion in her book, The Golden Gulag, Prisons, Surplus, Crisis, and Opposition in Globalizing California. The California state prisoner population grew nearly 500% between 1982 and 2000. These numbers continue to climb as federal funding continues to be cut from the community-based solutions and services for those with mental illness, ironically, while the DSM, backed by the U.S. government, continues to grow. The doctor's business used to be to diagnose and treat disease with the consent of the patient. Now, the politicians define disease and doctors control bad behavior. Cook County Sheriff Tom Dart detailed the struggle awaiting thousands of mentally ill prisoners who simply do not belong in the prison system. Cook County is Chicago. Conservative numbers are 25, but we think it's closer to 30 to 35% of our jail population that has a mental illness, so we've effectively become the largest mental health hospital in the country. Dart adds, their mission is to get the inmates stabilized, make sure they are on their meds, continuing, and when they're on their way out, the doctors give them a plastic baggie with 2 weeks worth of meds. SAS explains mental health and public health professionals lead the armies of medicalization toward their shared goal of controlling all human behavior by pharmacratic regulations. This is one example of the carceral network that ensures punishment and control outside the walls of prisons. Foucault explains the carceral. The carceral network in its compact or disseminated forms within its systems of insertion, distribute, surveillance, observation, has been the greatest support in modern society of the normalizing of power. Those suffering with mental illness, those who are homeless, those not aware or able to get help that they need, will be locked in jails and prisons and criminalized for not following the rules set in place by medical elite serving as protection of the economic elite. Ruth Wilson Gilmore and Craig Gilmore explain the power structure. The connection between the rise of the nation state and the rise of the prison is located in the contradiction between mobility and immobility. When the conditions attending on a global system that requires constant motion, i.e. capitalism, clash with challenges to maintain order, spatial fixes such as radicalization and criminalization temporarily settle things through complicating insider-outsider distinctions with additional rights differentiated hierarchical schemes. This form of legal control allows the mobility from the first level of coordination of all medical professionals and expands our understanding to see how pharmaceutical companies are funding the incarceration of those who have been pathologized by the DSM. The National Alliance of Mental Illness, NAMI, links prisons and pharmaceuticals. NAMI is the nation's largest grassroots mental health organization, providing advocacy, education, support, public awareness, so that individuals and families affected by mental illness can build better lives. The national, I'm going to insert really quick. When I first got out of the mental institution back in 2010, I volunteered for NAMI as a speaker, and I actually went back to the mental institution and also spoke in community settings, sharing my story of how I navigated that and how I was continuing to get my bachelor's degree, even though I had to withdraw from school and stuff. So I was totally on board with NAMI until I started radicalizing myself. So now I'm going to tear apart NAMI, but in the beginning I was for it. Okay, I was highly medicated, just out of the institutions, wanted to give back. So here we go. The National Alliance of Mental Illness was founded in 1979 and now has over 1,000 chapters throughout the 50 states. NAMI collaborates with the federal government to ensure allocation of funding to mental health education and advocacy. NAMI's definition of mental illness is a medical condition that disrupts a person's thinking, feeling, or mood, ability to relate to others, and daily functioning. I believe NAMI, if I'm not mistaken, if I remember correctly, was started by a mother of a child who went through some shit. Okay, so it started with those intentions, but it has shifted drastically since 1979 to support these efforts of criminalization and pharmaceuticals, and we're going to go through that right now. Alright? This definition victimizes the individual by alleviating responsibility of the environment and society as a whole for mental illness. The state capacities and capitalist agendas remains an absolute and therefore reduces a mental illness to the dysfunction of an individual. In addition to their relationship with the federal government, NAMI's local chapters are present in jails and police trainings around the country. Supporting the neoliberal agenda and the clear neoliberal business model, NAMI refers to the patients that they work with as consumers, suggesting that a person suffering from a mental illness is a customer of the product, medication. While NAMI has been praised on a global scale for their work advocating for the lives of quality and respect, free from discrimination and stigma, and providing leadership and advocacy, legislation, policy development, education, and support, it is important to reveal certain partnerships NAMI has with the pharmaceutical companies. The following is a table constructed from the quarterly reports on NAMI's website that exposes these relationships. I made this table by myself. The foundation and corporate contributions are insurance companies and pharmaceutical companies supporting the extensive reach of NAMI has on patients, families and friends, politicians, and law enforcement. I'll read some of these. So this was for, NAMI. So NAMI is a lobbyist group at this point in time. And what we know about lobbyists are that they lobby and get funding and ask for support from politicians. So this is that relationship. Anthem, so Blue Cross Blue Shield, 2015 convention gave $10,000. Assurex Health Insurance 2015 convention, 15,000. AbbVie, which is a pharmaceutical company, corporate support, 75,000. GlaxoSmithKline Pharmaceuticals, Otsuki Pharmaceuticals, Praxis Pharmaceuticals, Teva Pharmaceuticals all gave between 30 to 60,000 totaling for the 2015 quarter. So these are quarterly, so that's every 3 months. $320,000 in funding to NAMI to do this work. So pharmaceuticals are getting their hands in it. It's not just an advocacy group if that much money is involved, okay? NAMI is the front of the corrupt policies. That's the table right there that I just read you. NAMI is the front for the corrupt policies present in the nation's current mental health model. When one follows the money, it is abundantly clear that the continued success of groups such as NAMI are laced within the continued success and growth of Big Pharma, their top-tier donor in all fiscal reports. The history of the United States is, in large part, the history of capitalists figuring out how to develop and use large-scale, complex governmental institutions to secure their ability to get rich. That is a quote from Gilmore and Gilmore, Beyond Walls and Cages, Prisons and Borders. Okay. Big Pharma is a means to get rich off of the misfortunes of others and is controlled and supported by the medical, political misdiagnoses and misperceptions. NAMI presents a compassionate facade for those living with mental illness. NAMI accompanies doctors who prevent citizens from doing what they want to do or engaging in law enforcement under and through the guise of medicine. An elite few benefit from the prison and pharmaceutical industries. Local and federal governments pass and enforce policies and laws with little regard to those most affected. The current mental health model in the United States has failed by virtue of its methods of fixing, dividing, and recording. It has been one of the simplest, crudest, and most concrete, but perhaps most indispensable conditions for the development of this immense activity of examination that has objectified human behavior. That's from Foucault. That's not me. The neoliberal agenda based on individual freedoms has a limited scope. Neoliberalism encourages just enough individuality to pit people against each other while enforcing the carceral model. However, this model does not need to continue. Foucault's writings remind us just because this is the current model used in the United States of America does not mean that it cannot be altered, nor that it is once and for all indispensable of our kind of society. Along with the misconceptions and misunderstandings of those living with mental health issues is the misdiagnosis and inadequate treatment options for wellness and the coercion of big pharmaceuticals marketing medications. Within the neoliberal agenda, mental illness serves as a scapegoat to individual acts of violence, specifically of white males, while also serving as a means to persecute any other demographic. We have many other avenues to discover treatment and support to mental illness, and we must start exploring these to ensure our collective liberation. All right, next, last part of this chapter is radical mental health. It's a few more pages, so I'm going to take a little break, and then I'll be back to finish that one. All right, have a good one.